Hey, welcome back. Enough of this mucking around. Let's get down to business. I'm gonna strip down this engine, which if you've been watching, you've seen episode 7, 8, and 9, where I kind of went in depth into it. So a lot of the stuff I covered in that, I'm not really gonna cover here. I'm probably just gonna blow right through. Before I take it all the way apart though, there's a few things I wanna test out. One, I have a variator that I'm gonna install on here, so I'm really just going to take this the Motobecane clutch off and see what I'm going to do about putting that variator on. I'm not going to install it for real. I'm just going to do some exploration. And from the comments, there's a couple of other y'all out there that are trying to do the variator, so I'll try to detail what I'm looking at and what I'm doing. But for the most part, this is just going to be a straight strip of the engine. So I can clean it up. I think I'm going to leave the original cylinder, the Motobecane, and the Gertner on here so I can do a quick little speed test to see what I get just straight from, I doubt the crank's going to give me any more speed, but I think the CDI is probably going to increase my RPM some. So I'm going to do a quick speed test. We got a baseline, 23.1 miles per hour, which is our total stocker. So I'll do the CDI first. We'll see what it gets us. Then I'll probably throw on the variator and see what that gets us. Then we'll do the carb and the new head and see what that gets us. So it'll be a learning experience for me and a pretty good experiment to see which speed parts get you how much speed. So probably going to be a lot of fast forward while I do stuff that you've already seen. But like I said, first thing I want to do is start investigating how I'm going to put this variator on and whether I need any spacers, shims, nuts, bolts. It's just exploratory because it'll have a totally different crank after I put it back together. But I'm just really trying to get an idea about if I'm missing anything so I can order it and then take the 12 days it takes for treats to get it to me. So, so here goes. Man, do you remember the last time I did that? When I didn't have my sweet snap ring pliers? I was using the Harbor Freight snap ring pliers and that was a pain in the ass. This one popped right out. Look at that. I'm just loosening these up so I can get this this guard off so I can see about this variator. I'm probably going to need a new different kind of guard for the variated motor. So my initial look at it tells me that it will work. I think it's going to use different spacers to get to the circlips. but I'm not even going to take the time to figure that out quite yet because I'm not going to use this stock crank. But if you are putting it on the stock crank, it looks to me like you put the variator on, then you'll need a couple of spacers, then the circlip, then another spacer, then another circlip. I'm not 100% sure about that. It'll certainly work. I think the key is just making sure that this part lines up exactly, you know, where the belt goes, lines up exactly where the belt goes in the Mobi, so that the belt is flat with the pulley. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's gonna slide right on. So no issues here. That's a good thing. It's hot in here. Got the AC blaring. Got my awesome new shop light installed. So it's nice and bright over here. I'm gonna go ahead and finish tearing this down. Nothing new in here that you haven't already seen, so I'm just gonna go for it. Alright, time to clean again. Give me purple hair, spikes and piercings everywhere. Make me a rock and roll god, make me a rock god. I'll pray for it, I'll pray for it. Dedicated head, dedicated head. So after some consideration, I think I have to revise my plan. My plan was to rebuild this with the race crank and put the original cylinder and head back on here. But the problem with that is that I need to match this case. I need to port match against the new 74cc cylinder. And after you shave a bunch of filings, you don't want any metal getting down in there and fouling it, so you have to clean it really well, and I don't want to take it all the way apart again. So so I guess I'm throwing this on. We're going for it. So that means my next step is to mark out where I need to Dremel out this case so that it matches these rather large transfer ports that are in the 74cc kit. So I guess we're not going to be able to do too much of a comparison between old cylinder and new cylinder, but I can't say I'm upset. I'm itching to get this thing on, so here goes. Alright, here's something else I'm noticing. I can't get the cylinder to slide all the way in. There's a lip in here. I don't know if you can see. So I've got to grind out that lip as well. Ta-da! I'm using a paint pen here and I'm smearing it on thick so that when I press them together it'll transfer over and I can see how much I'm going to have to cut out of the cases. That's what we're taking off. And you can see I cleared out the inside of this lip right here so I could get the cylinder down it. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into this, to the new cylinder, and there's some casting marks. You know, it's just a bit rough and not fully opened on some of these ports. So I'm going to get in there and clean them out just a touch, just to get them wide open. I have got the bearings in the toaster oven. I've got my race crank down here in my beer cooler. And you guys know this drill. You've already seen it. The only difference is I'm using a different crank. I'm not using the stock crank. But the method is exactly the same. Freeze the crank, heat the bearings, hopefully they drop right on. If they don't, I've got this little piece of pipe, knock it on, done and done. Here goes. Remember, there's a chamfered edge on this thing, which goes towards the crankweight. Of course, it didn't drop for me. Of course, but that's why we have this. Oh, that one dropped right on. Look at that. Gorgeous. And there we have it. Our bearings are installed. Now I'm going to put this whole damn thing back in the beer cooler. Next one is we're going to put our seals in the cases. It's freaking hot. There's one. There it is. There's two. Now we wait. I'm going to let those bearings get nice and cold. I'm going to let those carders heat up again. Then we're going to smack it together. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and clean all the hardware and get it nice and spotless. You don't need to see that. It's boring. Put a little 2-cycle oil on that gasket before you put it in. I don't know why, but everybody says to do it, so I do it. I'm not worrying too much about torquing these bolts down or anything now. I'm just getting them in there so that the cases line up and get pulled together. Boom! Good morning. There's a few things I want to get done today. I want to install the kit. I want to hone out my intake. It's got some casting marks in there. It looks like it's blocking it some. I want to take apart the CDI and replace all the bolts with some much nicer bolts and some Loctite. Just because Tomahawk Tuning says to do that, and if he says to do something, I'm going to do it. At the end of it, I want to have my engine fully built. We probably won't install the CDI or the variator this episode. We'll do that next episode. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this gasket so it's not blocking out my newly honed transfer ports on the case or anything else. And then it's time to install this thing up. Here goes. Alright, I'm getting ready to install the piston on this. It's got an arrow which, when it shipped, was pointing towards the exhaust. So I guess I'm going to keep it that way, although the ring gaps are, I always read you put those towards the exhaust, and those are kind of going towards the intake, but it's got an arrow on it pointing forward, so that's how I'm going to install it. Right or wrong, I think it's right, so I'm going for it. Arrow forward. Starting out by oiling up the needle bearing that goes into the piston. And now I'm going to push the wrist pin in just to kind of keep it steady and still. And you put in one wrist pin clip so that you have something to push the wrist pin against. Now you can fully seat the wrist pin up against this clip. Make sure they're in perfectly. You don't want one of these to slip out or you'll have a bad day. Now you can put the other wrist pin clip in and you're nice and secure. Good to throw the 2-cycle oil everywhere. Keep it nice and lubed up so you don't scratch anything and it goes together easily. Those piston rings only go on one way. There's a little gap and you have to line the gap up with the little nub that's in the groove. So make sure you're looking at those when you put it together. Oops, a bit off screen here. I'm just putting the head gasket on. There we go. There she is. Alright, so this is the Treats CDI La Party. CDI La Parte. And Tomahawk recommends that you pull these out and replace them with better screws. So I got these ones, these nice Allen bolt screws. And I'm going to pull these out and put some Loctite on them just to make sure they're all snug down real good. Alright, next step is I'm going to go ahead and torque these down and put some Loctite on these. Go ahead and bolt this up for good. The torque specs are 9 to 11 foot-pounds, so I'll probably torque them up to about 5 or 6, and then come back around and do them up to 10 or 11. Torque down now. Now I get the head bolts torqued up, and this thing is buttoned up good. 11 to 13 foot-pounds. Let me get it up to 9, and then we'll go back and do to 12. There we go. Alright, this thing is fully buttoned up and looking good. Only one thing left to do today, and that's to clean out this intake a little bit. Nice. All right then, that's pretty much it.